Hello there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today we're going to be making a super shiny card using the waste of your hot foil too. So I have let my hot foil machine heat up, and I'm then going to be popping in the Sunburst Doily hot foil plate into place, and I have let that heat up too. I'm then going to place my foil on top of that, shiny side down onto the hot foil plate, a piece of black cardstock which I'll be heat foiling, and then some shims just to make sure that it foils correctly. I've then run that through my die cutting machine, and as you can see we have this beautiful hot foiled mandala right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that exactly the same thing again. So I'm going to pop my shiny side foil down, a little bit of black cardstock, some shims, and then run that through my hot foil plate so I have two of those images. I'm then going to be using the metallic watercolors from Altenew to colour in my images. Now I want kind of a rainbow kind of theme. So for the centre I went for the red one, and I'm then going to move on to the orange. As you can see, I did kind of wet my palette before I started. This is really going to help those pigments really activate and move around in the water. So once I have done one, I'm just going to move on to the other. So I am going to be adding the orange onto this one as well. And I do love this beautiful shiny effect that you get. And you can do this on just normal black cardstock. Just make sure that it's nice and thick, and the watercolor will work perfectly on it. So once I've finished with the orange, I'm then going to move on to a yellow. Now there's a number of different golds in here, and I have gone with the one that has the most yellow in it to give me that kind of yellow look that I'm after. I really do love how shiny these are, especially on that black cardstock. It really does show off the colors well. Now I don't want to colour all of the black spaces on here because we have done this on black cardstock. I do want to show that we do have the black cardstock there. So I have left that little circle layer kind of empty with the colour. And I do find that leaving that black space there really does make the other colours pop. So I've moved on to the green, onto those little petal plate spaces, just a little bit of green in there. And I'm then going to move on to this really gold kind of blue color that we have here. It's really striking and it works really, really well. So I'm going to keep going with this until I have all of the petals done on one flower, and I'm then going to move on to the second flower to add that color in as well. Like I said before, I am leaving a little bit of black spaces on this one as well. So I'm going to leave kind of the tips of the petals black and those little circles that you can see on the other petals just to make the other colors pop. So once I have finished with the blue, I can then move on to that beautiful royal kind of purple color that we have there. And I'm just going to add that in to the other petals. Now, if you do find that your watercolor is going over the foil, it will resist it, but you can take a dry paintbrush and just take that watercolor off the foil if you want to, which I do, just to give you a cleaner finish. But again, it will resist, so don't worry too much about that. You may need to add a little bit more water to your palette every now and again just to make sure that all these pigments do flow perfectly. So I'm just going to keep going until we have finished this flower here. And then once that's done, I did let these dry naturally. You can heat set them if you want to, but be careful not to overheat them because you don't want like the foil to lift or anything like that. So I did let mine dry naturally, and you can see just how pretty and shiny the image is here. Once I've done that, I'm then going to die cut the images out. So I have the die that comes with the Sunburst Doily die and hot foil plate, and I'm just going to place these around so I can see the whole of the image within the die. I then decided to use my waste from the hot foil, and you can see that it is very, very pretty. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the double-sided adhesive from Altenew, and I'm going to place these shiny side up onto that adhesive. Now this is going to enable me to die cut these out the same as I did before, and then they're going to have a sticky back on them, which is very, very clever. You may want to just trim around the edges to get rid of all of that adhesive that is poking through so it doesn't stick onto your die cutting plate when you do die cut these. So once I have the first one die cut, I can then take that same die again and then place it around the second one and then run that through my machine. So once I have all of my little images now, I can then take a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 black card base, and I'm going to be placing these into position. So I've placed my coloured ones into position first, just to make sure where I want the little background ones to go. I can then remove the backing on these and then stick those into place. I'm then going to just turn those little panel or card base over and cut from behind, just to make sure that everything lines up perfectly. I'm then going to take the second one and I can then place this into position 2. Now, any of these little pieces that you do cut off this, you can reuse to fill in any of the other spaces, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just going to make sure that there's no like black spaces, like too much black space, because we do want this really, really shiny. So I'm just going to kind of cut that one off and then pop that into place, and it's going to look like we have more than we actually did. So we only had 2. But it's going to make it look like we have many, many more when we kind of fill in that space. So once I've done that, I can then take some foam tape and add that behind the watercolored ones that we have. And again, I am going to reuse parts of these that we do cut off. So I'm just going to pop those into place, turn the little panel over that we have here, and then cut off any of the overhanging. And then once I have those little pieces, I can then reuse the smaller pieces just to fill in any gaps that I feel are missing, or if there's too much gold somewhere, you can just pop that over and that's going to kind of break it up as well. So once I have finished that, all I need to do now is have a sentiment. So for the sentiment, I am going to be using the sentiment strips 2, and I really did like this time to party sentiment. So I've took some of the waste that we had from the watercolored elements that we've done. So this is some jet black cardstock. And I am going to be stamping that sentiment into place using some of the embossing ink from Altenew. And I'm just going to heat set that using some of the rose gold powder. So this is going to give me another beautiful gold effect on our already golden card. So I'm just going to cut that into a strip. And I'm then going to add some more foam tape behind there, and then I'm just going to pop that into place where I want it to be on the card. And here is the card complete. I really do hope that you like the card and that you've enjoyed the video as well. If you do create a card that was inspired by this, it would be great if you do share, because we really would love to see. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.